Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. During an astronomy class, the teacher enthusiastically tells the students about the meteor shower that the inhabitants of Earth are about to witness soon. However, the teenagers seem uninterested in the teacher's story and are absorbed in their own concerns. Julia, along with her best friend Sana, discusses her new boyfriend, Artyom. Although she enjoys her time with the handsome young man, Julia often struggles to find conversation topics. The conversation between the friends catches the attention of a classmate nicknamed Google, who secretly has feelings for Julia and always gives her the correct answers during class. The teacher warns the students that a meteor shower always heralds tragic events. In the distant past, people considered a meteor shower a blessing for the Crusaders, but in the end, all the Crusaders perished in the desert. A student asks if the meteor shower today poses a danger to Earthlings. The teacher, uncertain, states that meteor fragments will burn up in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Artyom picks up Julia from school, leaving her friend alone. At home, she faces an unpleasant conversation with her father, Colonel Valentine Lav. The girl wants to join her friends and go out to watch the meteors, but her father believes that a large gathering of people can be dangerous and forbids her from leaving the house. Upon learning this, Artyom promises to rescue Julia from confinement. Meanwhile, an alien spaceship enters a meteor shower, damaging its camouflage. The Russian army detects the rapid approach of an unidentified aerial object over the capital. Suspecting a connection with NATO, they decide to act and send interceptors to take it down. Local residents gather in open spaces, including Julia and Artyom. A car abruptly enters the scene, nearly running over people. This incident infuriates Artyom, who breaks the side window of the car. A conflict seems inevitable, but Artyom's close friends, Ruslan, Mishkin, and Python, come to his aid. Assessing the disadvantages, the car owner decides not to get into a fight. Sana invites Julia and Artyom to the rooftop of her house, from where there is a magnificent view of the meteor shower. However, the lovers are so absorbed in each other that Sana generously offers the keys to her apartment for privacy. During the intimate moment, Julia is unable to relax completely because she left her friend alone on the rooftop, and her concern proves justified. At that moment, jets shoot down the alien spaceship, which falls directly onto the rooftop where Sana is. During the fall, the ship destroys dozens of residential buildings, a highway, and a stadium. Julia and Artyom find themselves on the edge of an abyss, clinging to the rubble of a bed. Fortunately, Artyom manages to save Julia and evacuate her from the partially destroyed house. The incident site is cordoned off by the army and police. Colonel Lev and the parliament representative, Mikey, decide to make contact with the aliens to understand their intentions. A 2-meter-tall creature resembling a robot emerges from the spaceship to meet them. Mikey welcomes it to Earth, but due to heightened stress, suffers a heart attack. Later, Lev informs Parliament about the results of the negotiations with the representative of the extraterrestrial race. He asks people not to approach the ship and allow the aliens to repair it so they can return to their planet safely. Since the space visitors show no signs of aggression, Lev recommends that the authorities do not provoke a conflict and adopt a position of observation. Julia wakes up in a hospital room and, upon watching the news on TV, learns about the crash of the spaceship, which caused disaster in the city. A package containing Sana's headphones catches her eye, showing the date of her friend's death. Overwhelmed by the events, she finds Artyom and escapes with him from the hospital. Colonel Lev arrives at the hospital in an armored vehicle. Despite his dissatisfaction with his daughter's connection with the modern aggressive youth, he thanks the young man for saving Julia. On the way home, the girl asks her father what lies ahead for them. Lev explains that a curfew has been imposed on the city and that after school, all students must go straight home. However, the restrictions for Julia do not end there, as Lev will be constantly busy with his duties and unable to ensure his daughter's safety. He turns to her grandmother, who looks after her. As a result, Julia's tense relationship with her father becomes even more complicated. Several days later, students are transported to school in military vehicles. Inside the educational institution, a memorial is organized in memory of Sana, intensifying Julia's sadness and hatred toward the aliens who took her best friend's life. During the astronomy class, the teacher tries to convince the teenagers to be more tolerant of the extraterrestrial visitors, despite the bitter morning. Humanity has a unique opportunity to become acquainted with an alien civilization and ask important questions about the mysteries of the universe. Julia, harboring negative feelings, perceives the teacher's words negatively and opines that people should expel the aliens from their lands. At home, the girl breaks into her father's safe and steals a handgun. An hour before the curfew, she heads to the garage where her friends are, who are also inclined to act aggressively toward the aliens that roam freely on their land. Julia encourages her friends to move from words to action and reveals the stolen gun. The group infiltrates an abandoned building that provides discreet access to the restricted area where the spaceship fell. Artyom instructs Julia to wait for him in an abandoned car, warning her about the dangers ahead. Inside a store, the guys discover a round extraterrestrial artifact on the ground and conclude that the device fell to Earth when the ship got entangled in a house. Meanwhile, Julia, ignoring her boyfriend's instructions, climbs to Sana's apartment. There, she sadly looks at the picture they took together and listens to her friend's last voice message. Suddenly, an alien appears in front of Julia. Startled, she instinctively reacts and shoots at it. Reeling back, Julia falls into an open space, but the alien manages to grab her hand, saving her from falling from the partially destroyed building. At that moment, she notices how the alien's head momentarily takes on a human appearance. Artyom and his friends run to Julia's aid and attack the alien. Due to the group's aggressive actions, the extraterrestrial loses balance and falls, shedding its exoskeleton. The group discovers an empty suit with red liquid inside and decides to take it to their garage for further study. Among the dusty rubble, Julia notices the body of the injured alien, which remarkably resembles an ordinary man. She decides to keep this a secret and, along with the others, leaves the restricted area. Julia spends a sleepless night contemplating the alien's actions. At dawn, she steals her father's car and returns to the restricted area. The alien, gravely injured, loses consciousness, and Julia needs to pull him out of the building in a cart. At school, Julia turns to her classmate Google and asks him to skip class to help her. Seeing the alien's body in the truck, the young man can't contain his excitement. He informs Julia that the alien's anatomy is very close to that of a human and that a transfusion of the red liquid is necessary to save him. Thanks to her father's connections, Julia manages to get a pass to the hospital and discreetly brings the alien to the operating room. With Google's help, she performs the transfusion of the red liquid into the alien's body. The extraterrestrial briefly regains consciousness and, in gratitude, gifts Julia with an unusual bracelet. The teenagers take the alien visitor to the garage, where they tie him up. Julia goes home to take a shower and relax. During her bath, she discovers that her new bracelet has the ability to move from one hand to another and allows her to control water. Meanwhile, the military discovers the alien artifact and sends it to a laboratory for research. In a presentation to the members of parliament, one of the scientists informs them that the alien spaceship is attracting all the water from the city. He concludes that the water is an integral part of the regeneration process of the damaged alien transport. The authorities decide to accommodate the aliens by imposing restrictions on the distribution of water among the civilian population. Leave appeals to the leadership to return the artifact to its owners but receives a firm refusal, as they intend to use this unknown device to gather more information about the extraterrestrial race. The next day, excited, Google informs Julia that the alien has finally awakened. The girl instructs the armed alien and demands answers. The extraterrestrial almost instantly switches to Russian and introduces himself as Hakan. He tells the teenagers that he needs to recover a device called Shill and return to his ship. Julia feels strange during the encounter with the alien and responds to him rudely. Hakan says he understands her feelings, as in his opinion, she saved the life of an enemy. Irritated, Julia orders her new acquaintance to put on her father's old clothes and leave her garage immediately. Hakan silently obeys, but the rules of behavior on the streets of an alien planet are completely incomprehensible to him. His strange appearance attracts the attention of patrol officers, who, mistaking the alien for an addict, direct him to the precinct. Artyom and his friends try to dismantle the alien exoskeleton, but all their tools fail against its armor. Wiping the protective suit with a damp cloth, they notice scratches on it that disappear instantly. Mishkin puts his hand inside the exoskeleton and discovers that it mimics all his movements. Suddenly, the suit begins to envelop the boy's hand, causing panic. His friends help him out, but superficial cuts remain on his arm due to his clumsy actions. Frightened, Mishkin tells his friends that he no longer wants to resist the aliens and believes that the extraterrestrial race will end up destroying everyone. Ruslan kicks him out onto the street in anger. Mishkin shouts to his friend that the aliens will deal with him first. Artyom decides to get rid of the dangerous suit and arranges a meeting with Colonel Lev. With his friends, he arrives at a checkpoint where local residents have long been waiting for the distribution of water. The tension among the population rises, and a furious man from the crowd throws a stone at a police officer. Unable to see the attacker's face, the officer assumes it was Ruslan and advances toward him. Python tries to defend his friend but receives a heavy blow to the head with a baton. Artyom quickly puts his friends in the car and orders them to go to a safe location. Chaos ensues, and the locals intend to break through the police barrier. Artyom tries to steer people away from the confrontation, warning them about the danger of attacking the police. He wants to help the injured officer, but in the confusion, other law representatives perceive his actions as an attack. They strike the young man with a baton and forcibly drag him into a prisoner transport vehicle. Colonel Lev arrives on the scene and asks Artyom what he wanted to show him. The young man looks at the injured officer, who cowardly chooses to remain silent about Artyom having tried to save him. Feeling disdain for the law, the young man changes his mind about telling Lev about the exoskeleton and allows himself to be arrested. Hakan is taken to the precinct, where they unsuccessfully attempt to collect his fingerprints. There, the alien sees a news report on TV informing that Shilka is now under the control of the Ministry of Defense. Eventually, Julia calms down and decides to help the extraterrestrial visitor. Using her position as the colonel's daughter, she guarantees his release from custody at the precinct. There, she finds Artyom and promises that her father will help him be freed. In response, the young man speaks negatively about Lev and says that soon he and his friends will establish their own order. In the area, Hakan tells Julia that Shilka is with the military and that without this device, the spaceship cannot make a temporal transition to another dimension. The girl offers her help to the alien so he can leave Earth as soon as possible. Arriving at the Ministry of Defense with Hakan, a guard refuses to let Julia see her father without a valid reason. Looking at Hakan, the girl quickly invents a plausible reason and claims that she is pregnant. Shocked by his daughter's unexpected confession, Lav threatens to send Hakan to serve elsewhere in the country. Julia asks her father not to get angry and hugs him, skillfully stealing his security pass. The irritated colonel sends the young man out of the office, and Julia discreetly hands the pass to him. She then confesses to her father that she tricked him. The girl, with a sad smile, says this is the first time her father has agreed to listen to her in a long time. Lev is constantly absorbed in work and has completely stopped caring about his daughter's life. She still harbors resentment towards her father for sending her to the field when her mother was gravely ill and had little time left. The colonel sought to protect his daughter from pain, but did not give her the opportunity to say goodbye to her mother. Hakan, wearing a protective suit and using the colonel's pass, infiltrates the laboratory. Placing his hand on the artifact, he extracts a glowing core and silently exits, leaving the laboratory technicians in shock. The emergency alarm goes off in the building, and Lev evacuates Juliet and Hakan from the Ministry of Defense. Artyom is freed and informs his friends that he plans to start fighting against the aliens in the garage. The boys fix a metal grid to the windshield of the car, prepare a Molotov cocktail mixture, and load baseball bats into the trunk. Artyom calls Juliet and apologizes for his recent rudeness. He invites his girlfriend to join them in the garage, but the girl no longer seeks revenge and declines the meeting. Julia tells Hakan that they won't be able to approach the ship without being noticed before the curfew. To pass the time, the girl suggests that the extraterrestrial have dinner at her house. Upon arriving at the apartment, they are greeted by an old blind dog named Charlie. By touching the animal, Hakan discovers with horror that it is in pain. Julia confesses that she is not ready to say goodbye to Charlie, as her mother gave her this dog. Julia's grandmother enters the room, and she briefly steps away to talk about the strange guy at home. Upon returning, she is surprised to find that Charlie's eyes can see again. Hakan shows her Shilka and explains that this artifact is the source of eternal life. Since Hakan has been in constant contact with this extraordinary object, he himself has become immortal. Julia prepares pancakes for the extraterrestrial visitor and feels warm feelings for him growing in her heart. At that moment, news images show Hakan on the Ministry of Defense's surveillance cameras near the laboratory. Minutes later, Colonel Leave irrationally arrives at the house, but fortunately, the young people have already escaped. They went to Google's house, where they watch Artyom gathering a resistance team and spreading propaganda videos online, inciting people to unite and resist the aliens. Julia finds her friend's last gift in her backpack, 2 tickets to the show of her favorite artist. She decides to go with Hakan to blend in with the crowd and wait for the curfew. During the performance, the alien leans toward Julia and telepathically transports her to his home planet, where they witness an impressive world. He tells the girl that the climate of his planet is similar to that of Earth but free of environmental pollution. Its inhabitants are like the people of Earth, but they found a way to live forever, avoiding suffering. Hakan did not want to attack Earth, he wanted to quietly explore a planet similar to his before making contact with Earthlings. Caught in a meteor shower, the camouflage of his ship failed, leading to a military attack on the aircraft. If any human tries to board the ship, Saul will destroy them, protecting the technologies of his planet. Mishkin, also present at the show, spots Julia in the crowd and hurriedly informs Artyom that his girlfriend is now with someone else. The artist announces from the stage that the curfew has begun and that everyone present must leave the venue. Julia takes Hakan to a secluded area and says goodbye to him. Unable to contain her feelings any longer, the couple kisses. At that moment, Artyom calls Julia, and she breaks up with him over the phone. Unexpectedly, Artyom appears from an alley with his friends and attacks Hakan. He does not resist, allowing the group to hit him in silence, as his race does not accept violence. Trying to stop them, Julia explains that they are attacking an extraterrestrial who only wishes to return to his home planet. The girl admits that she was wrong in her assumptions about the aliens and now recognizes that they surpass humans. After these words, madness sparkles in Artyom's eyes, and he slaps Julia with all his might. Upon seeing this, Hakan violates his principles and disperses the attackers alone. Mishkin finds a gun in Julia's backpack and points it at Hakan. In an attempt to protect her loved one, the girl throws herself against the shooter, causing the bullet he fired to hit Ruslan. Julia pleads with Hakan to save Ruslan, but Shilka does not have the ability to resurrect the dead. The friends rush to the injured boy, but it is too late. As military vehicles approach, Artyom and his friends hurry to hide, while Hakan and Julia are taken into custody. Artyom orders Python to make an emergency call to the members of the resistance group. To provoke, he intentionally spreads the rumor that the alien attacked a human, taking his life. This message intensifies the general discontent among the population, which had already arisen due to the losses after the ship's crash, the difficulties in water supply, and the actions of the authorities against the residents who were left homeless. Hundreds of people respond to Artyom's call, in shock. After losing his friend, he urges people to rebel against the authorities and attack the aliens. Enraged people grab weapons to defend their land from the outsiders. Artyom returns to the garage and puts on the exoskeleton to gain an advantage in the battle. Julia and Hakan are held captive at a mobile military checkpoint. Colonel Leave arrives there, and his daughter tries to explain to her father that people cannot approach the ship. If they do, the self-destruct system will be activated, destroying an entire city. The insurgents manage to break through the perimeter defenses and reach the restricted area. Alien race robots emerge from the ship, seeking to protect their technologies. Despite the aggressive attitude of the attackers, they try to minimize human casualties. The military also engages in the battle to prevent an escalation of the conflict. Listening intently to his daughter's arguments, Leave admits that he sincerely wants to help her, but he is also afraid of losing her in this battle. In an attempt to achieve her goal, Julia aims a gun at her temple and, through coercion, forces her father to give her the keys to the armored vehicle. Together with Hakan, they quickly drive toward the spaceship. Along the way, the maddened Artyom violently attacks the couple and, with one shove, flips the military vehicle. Hakan exits the transport and, upset by the attack, fights with Artyom, who, at a certain advantage, almost manages to defeat him. Unfortunately, without the alien suit, Hakan is defeated and nearly killed. Fortunately, Julia hits him with the armored vehicle. In the end, the rebellion is controlled. The robots almost attack the military, but Liev disarms and raises his hands, signaling his soldiers' peaceful intentions. Hakan and Julia embrace happily, and the girl confesses her love to the extraterrestrial. Completely losing control, Artyom exits the exoskeleton and shoots at his ex-girlfriend and at Hakan, who tried to protect her with his body. The colonel's greatest fear becomes a reality as he rushes to his daughter's lifeless body. The robots carry Hakan and Julia inside the spaceship and place them in regeneration capsules. The artificial intelligence informs Liev that his daughter will live thanks to Hakan, who, loving the girl, sacrificed his immortality for her salvation. Saul reveals that Hakan concealed his expedition to Earth from everyone. Despite the almost ideal weather conditions, open visits to Earth are prohibited due to an extremely aggressive social environment. However, the sacrifice of Julia and Hakan made the artificial intelligence reconsider its opinion about Earthlings, and now it must transmit the acquired knowledge to its own planet. Julia regains consciousness and looks, in tears, at Hakan's lifeless body. Shilka is returned to its place, and the spaceship departs from Earth, forever changing the lives of the local residents. In Hakan's capsule, the regeneration process is initiated, suggesting that the extraterrestrial may have survived. At the end of the story, Julia reflects on the fact that an extraterrestrial from another planet managed to believe in humanity more than humans themselves.